What if you could see the real person behind the polite smile and the rehearsed answers? Today, we're diving into a skill that honestly no one ever really teaches you, but once you learn it, you can't unsee it. We're going to unlock some of Friedrich Nietzsche's most powerful psychological truths to understand people on a level you never thought possible. Okay, so let me ask you something. Think about the people in your life, your friends, your family, your coworkers. Do you think you're really seeing them? Nietzsche basically warned us that what we see on the surface, well, it's rarely the whole story. More often than not, it's an act. It's a performance designed for survival. And that right there brings us to this central idea of the mask. Now, when Nietzsche talks about a mask, he's not calling people fake. It's not an insult. It's more of a heads up, right? He's saying, hey, don't confuse the armor with the person wearing it. This mask is just a tool we all use to get by in the world. So our journey starts right here. In Section 1, we're going to learn how to read those surface-level clues. This is all about how to observe and actually interpret the personas that people so carefully build to protect themselves. So here it is, Nietzsche's first huge truth. Every single person wears a mask. And it's not because they're being inauthentic, it's because they're scared. I mean, genuinely terrified. Scared of being rejected, of not being good enough, of having their vulnerabilities exposed. This whole persona is a shield, and it's built out of a deep-seated fear, a shield that's designed to protect a much older, deeper wound. We'll get to that later. Now, what's really fascinating is that these masks, they leak. The truth always finds a way out. So pay close attention to what someone is constantly criticizing in other people. Nietzsche called this projection. We basically hate in others the very things we're afraid to admit about ourselves. And you got to be a little wary of someone who's always talking about how virtuous they are. It's often just a disguise for a need to feel superior. And finally, listen to the silence. A quick subject change, a pause that's just a little too long, that silence can tell you everything you need to know. And this is such a key point. You know those little lies you hear all the time? Oh, I'm fine. Nah, it doesn't bother me. Those lies, they aren't really for you. They are stories people have told to themselves over and over again just to keep going. See, self-deception always comes first, and that's what makes reading people possible. The little cracks in their own story reveal the truth they're hiding from themselves. So, here's the bottom line. A big show of superiority is almost always just overcompensation. That person who can't stop talking about their success, they're probably deeply afraid that they're not good enough. The one who has to control every little detail, they're terrified of being ignored. Nietzsche believed that behind that throne of arrogance, you'll almost always find a scared child, just desperate for someone to tell them they're okay. All right, let's take this a step deeper. Because it's one thing to notice the mask, right? But it's another thing entirely to see it crack. And those little moments, a flash of discomfort, a nervous laugh, those aren't mistakes. They're clues. They're breadcrumbs, leading you straight to the truth. And this leads us to a truly foundational truth, what I'd call a master key that unlocks pretty much everything about human behavior. And that key is this. Most of what we do is driven by unconscious fear. We like to think we're chasing our dreams and desires, but Nietzsche would say, nope. Most of the time, we're just running away from our fears. So here's a little trick. To understand someone's real motivation, stop asking, what do they want? Instead, ask yourself, what are they terrified of losing? That question, that will point you directly to the truth. And you see these fears playing out in everyday life. You know the person who overexplains every little thing? That's often a deep fear of being misunderstood or rejected. The one who dominates every conversation, they might be terrified of being overlooked. And the person who always says yes when you know they mean no, that's usually coming from a profound fear of abandonment. Now, think about the chronic critic in your life. Nietzsche argued their judgment is almost never about the person they're actually targeting. It's a confession. They are literally projecting the parts of themselves they can't stand, the parts they're desperately trying to get rid of. Their criticism is like a roadmap that leads directly back to their own pain. And wow, has this ever been more relevant than it is today? Just look at social media. Nietzsche would say that this constant performance of a perfect life isn't a sign of strength. It's a sign of desperation. The louder the performance, the emptier the core. This isn't a show of power. It's a whisper of need, a quiet cry to be seen and valued from someone who's afraid they aren't whole on their own. Okay, now we go to the final layer, the core of it all, because behind every behavior is a belief, and behind almost every belief, there's a wound. In this section, we're going to learn how to recognize that deep, original story that drives every single person you meet. You might think people are rational, but Nietzsche would disagree strongly. Remember how he said the mask protects a deeper wound? Well, this is it. Underneath every logical argument is an emotional foundation. A person's rigid worldview is often just an elaborate fortress they've built to protect the one place where they were most deeply hurt. So you have to stop asking what they believe. The real question is, what broke them? What are they so terrified of feeling ever again? So, you want to see someone's true character? Here's how. Watch how they treat someone who can't do anything for them or can't fight back. Real strength isn't shown through domination. It's revealed in those moments where compassion is an option. The person who can look at weakness without mocking it, who can forgive when they have the power to punish, that is someone who has truly won their own inner war. People don't just change, they repeat. We are all constantly reenacting the roles and fears we learned in childhood. Just look at this example. The child who was punished for having feelings often becomes the adult who sees emotion as a weakness. Their behavior today is just their biography playing out on a loop. And behind every adult is a child who is still just waiting to feel safe. And this is really the final truth that ties it all together. People show you what hurts them through their repeated patterns. The person who ghosts the second relationship gets serious, the one who overworks to avoid being alone with their thoughts. These are not random behaviors. They are confessions. They are showing you, this is how I protect myself, and more importantly, this is where I was hurt. So, after peeling back all these layers, we arrive at a completely new way of seeing. And this isn't just about analyzing other people. It's about fundamentally changing how we connect with them. And this is the most important takeaway of all. Nietzsche didn't want you to see through people so you could control them or win an argument. He wanted you to see through them so you could stop being fooled and start actually connecting. When you can see the fear behind the bully or the pain behind the critic, you don't become weaker. You become unshakable. Because you're no longer reacting to the mask. You're responding to the human being. Now, for just a second, let's turn the lens inward. As we've gone through all these truths, which ones kind of resonated? Which patterns, which fears, which childhood scripts do you see playing out in your own life? Because the funny thing is, the more clearly you can see other people, the more clearly you begin to see yourself. Ultimately, this knowledge isn't a weapon to use on other people. It's a mirror. Everything you judge in someone else is probably something you carry, and everything you admire in them is something you long to embody. This isn't the end of a lesson. It's the beginning of a new way of seeing the world, and more importantly, of seeing yourself.